This is a chuck roast that I have roasting in a 250-degree oven for about 5 hours. This 3.5-pound roast will make about 40 Berrock. I seasoned it with salt and pepper, and I put in carrots, celery, and an onion and a bay leaf to flavor up the roast while it cooks. It's optional, but before I put it in the oven, I browned the roast on both sides in a frying pan that was seasoned with salt and pepper. The roast has been chilling all night. I also had put some garlic on the top of the roast when I cooked it. And I'm going to now cut it into chunks, and it's going to go into a meat grinder. Any fat that's on the roast, you want to keep that. It equals flavor. Fat. The roast all cut up and ready to go into the meat grinder. We bought our meat grinder before food processors were available. If you process the meat, just be careful that you don't make the pieces too small. And by the way, I do have kitchen help. Meat grinder, here's our meat grinder that we use, and it works really good. It gets the meat just a nice grind. So we've completed chopping up the meat, and this is what it looks like. It's a little larger than a hamburger size.
And we prefer this to hamburger.
My 3 onions and 2 heads of cabbage ready to go. I cleaned I took off the outer layers of the cabbage leaves. I'm going to cut these into smaller pieces and chop these in the food processor. I'm going to cut the cabbage. I'm going to take out the center, and then I'm going to slice the cabbage in the food processor. So I'll be back with the vegetables. Onions in the pot with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to saute them for a few minutes. And I'm going to add some salt and pepper to taste as I go. All right, I have my bowl of raw cabbage that we've just put through the shredder in the food processor, and I like to have it cut in not such wide pieces. On YouTube, I did see some people that had real chunky cabbage, and I don't think it makes as nice of a mixture. So I'm going to take this over. My onions have been cooking for about 4 minutes now, and I'm going to put the cabbage right on top, and I'm going to mix it up. And I'm also going to add some more salt. It's very important to have your filling well seasoned, and it takes more salt than you probably think it would. And I'm also going to put in some more pepper. And mix, mix, mix. Trying something new this year. Sometimes our Berrocks are a little too juicy and they leak out at the seam while they're baking. So this time I've drained off the cabbage and onions, and quite a bit of liquid did come out. So I'm going to put it back into the pot. It's all cooked. And I'm going to add the beef mixture. So this is our filling, and I'll just stir it up. I'm going to taste it again and add any more salt and pepper if necessary. And I'm also going to add about a half a teaspoon of allspice, and that just gives it a nice subtle little spicy flavor. Okay. That looks good. Looks mighty tasty. Seems salty enough. I'm just going to add the allspice, and then I'm going to just set this aside, put it in the refrigerator until I'm ready to roll out the dough. So I'm going to be making the dough now, and I first proof my yeast by putting some of the yeast in warm water. And when it starts to foam up, I'll know that my yeast is good. I also put in a tablespoon of sugar, which helps the yeast proof quicker. I'm going to use my electric mixer to knead the dough this time. If you have a dough hook, you can use your electric mixer, and it takes about 8 minutes of kneading on the mixer. If I was doing it by hand, I'd need to do it for about 25 minutes. I have my ingredients measured out. I have my liquids, which is the water, milk, butter, and egg in here. And here's my flour and salt. So I'm going to put my wet ingredients into my dry and mix it up a little. And maybe I shouldn't have used the whisk. It's getting pretty messy here because I have more flour to add. I think I'm going to get rid of the whisk and use a spoon. So anyway, I'm going to combine all the ingredients, and then I'm going to knead it on the mixer with my dough hook. So I'll show you that in just a minute. Two times. The first time it took about an hour, and the second time about 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it into 30 balls. And each ball will be a Berrock.
I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut it into quarters. We actually need 32 out of here.
You want me to make it into a little ball?
Yeah. And then we're going to cut each one of these
into like 8.
in half again. And so now I need 4 out of this guy. You can roll that one.
32 balls.
We're going to cover it with a towel and proceed to roll out and fill the Berrocks. Is the white dog outside?
Rolling and filling station. So I'm rolling out the dough to about 6-inch rounds. And Grandpa's filling it. And here's our filling right here. He has a little bit of water to put around the dough to help seal it, so there's not as much leakage. And I have a little extra flour if I need some flour for my board.
Yeah, it's nice and pliable.
Mm-hmm.
Be interesting what the new batch is supposed to be like. Yeah, we crimp it on the bottom. It's this size. You see it in my hand. And then I lay it on the tray face down. Or a
Seam side. Seam side.
Seam side down, yeah. That face, I guess. Are you filming?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the dough today is very nice and elastic, which is good. Sometimes it's a little stiff. So I pick it up and I crimp it along the back. You want to make sure that you have none of the filling in there. Then I bring the end over. And I bring the other end over. Bring it over and give it a little pat on the back and set it down. There
Wash. Jasmine is putting egg wash on the Berrock now, and that will give it a real nice golden shiny look out of the oven.
And then we let them sit how long before we...
Maybe about 20 minutes. We'll let the Berrock sit before we put them in the oven.
And why do we do that? Why do we let them sit?
They rise a little bit more.
So it's kind of like the third rising?
Yes, sir. A batch that's ready to go in, and it's going to bake for about 25 minutes. And then we have another batch that came out, and you can take a look at that, Jasmine. They're nice and brown.
What temperature?
375 for 25 minutes. Okay, there they go.